Hello, world.
It's been a while.
It's been almost exactly 6 months, believe it or not. Had this idea to film a check-in video about Natalie and I, and it turned out that it's 2 days shy of exactly 6 months from when we filmed our last video about how to break up in a way that honors, what was it called?
Basically, where it's not a shit show and you hate each other.
Break up in a way that works super well
Yeah.
and retains all the love and feels really good. And so we're here to check in with you 6 months later and let you know about where we're at. We're going to let you know what it's kind of a little bit about our path of getting here. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's next for us as a pair of people as well as individuals. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So where we're at right now, that's a good question. Where are we at right now?
I'd like to hear you go first, Bob. He likes to do this thing where he's like, Natalie! I'm like, nope, you first.
Because you have such wonderful answers all the time.
And you're not ready to answer it.
And you have wonderful answers. Every time I do it and you answer, you have the most profound thing comes out of her mouth.
This is true.
So anyway, where we are at is in terms of our business, we're still having a lot of fun coaching people together. We've been continuing to do that, and we've been working with some couples and helping them have extraordinary relationships, and we've been working with some singles and helping them find their extraordinary relationships. And as a side note, we had a client who got engaged like a month after we stopped working together on calling in her one, so that was pretty special.
And we might work with her and her man now, which is pretty fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in with Sex the Podcast, we decided that we are going to continue doing interviews for that through basically we're going to keep doing it until the end of the year, until the end of 2016. And then we're going to put that baby to bed for good.
Well, and it has a nice repository. We wanted to get a range of topics and people, and that way there's an evergreen place where you can go to for information and education around sex.
Yeah, and it felt right to let that project go
Yeah.
at the end of the year.
And we also had fun in Portland mid last year at the World Domination Summit. We did a meetup around sex again and had another 35 people show up, and it was just really powerful.
Mid this year.
Mid.
You said mid last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oops.
Just
I mean,
about.
we did one last year too.
Yeah, both years. We did one this year also. So we did an in-person workshop at a conference and had like 35 people come up to talk about sex, and so we've still been doing our thing together.
Yeah.
It's been really beautiful.
Yeah.
And in terms of where we're at just interpersonally, we are, you put it, that was a great way that you put it earlier. She basically said that she realized that where we are now is kind of where we thought we were going to be, or where we intended to be a year ago. Because what happened is that Natalie and I met, and there's tons of awesome feelings between us, and we ended up moving in together and ended up creating plans for living together and being a power couple together and all of these different things, this huge vision. But before all of that came, we had just had the simple plan of let's take it step by step, and Bob's going to move to Los Angeles for a little bit, and then he's going to go continue doing his thing individually and move to San Diego or move somewhere else in Los Angeles, and we would just be dating. And were there any other pieces of the picture?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest part of all that was, instead of planning ahead of time and trying to decide what we were going to do or who we were going to be, we would just continue to check in regularly. Does this feel good? Let's do it. Is this easy? Let's do it. Does this feel like there's pressure? Let's not do it. And that was kind of the plan. And obviously it took the path that it did because it needed to. Otherwise we wouldn't have started working together.
Yeah.
We
wouldn't have started Sex the Podcast.
Yeah.
And lots of beautiful things have opened up in just like emotionally as well as in our businesses and in our lives that never would have happened otherwise. So there's a lot that happened that was supposed to happen.
Just kind of the circular, interesting thing that we're, again, back where we kind of planned to originally.
Mm-hmm.
And got to experience cool things, and we're different. We've learned a lot. We've grown a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this time that we've been apart,
Mm-hmm.
not living together, and not in relationship romantically, and
Yeah, but we're still dating.
yeah,
Go on some dates.
yeah,
Have some sexy times together.
and still work and have fun, but
Mm-hmm.
really like from this place of again, what feels good, what feels easy, what feels connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Letting the relationship be what it wants to be rather than trying to put our like basically our unmet needs of like wanting the thing that's going to last for forever, instead of kind of putting these versions or visions of relationship onto it. We've been letting it be what it wants to be. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. I'm really grateful that she's still in my life, and we are more connected than ever, I would say. And there's more love and more connection than ever, which is what we committed to when we filmed our video 6 months ago. It's working.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, just as far as, where I'm at now with all of that is, I'm just very clear that Bob and I are still focusing on what's important to us individually. Like, for Bob, it was about his healing. It was about, like, having your own space and really having a sense of freedom and confidence.
At this point in my life, those are the things that are priorities for me.
And so Bob's been focusing on that, and he's been doing that. And for me, it's still being open, because I still want that relationship, and
Like open, how do you mean?
like open to like still having what I want, which is my like long-term partner, and just continuing to follow what feels good and being open in that way. Yeah.
So what did it take for us to get here? Kind of what's happened between 6 months ago and now, and what has allowed us to stay with so much love in this relationship, and to continue working together, and just having like this relationship, this space be one that breeds more love and more connection. I wasn't able to think of my answers. What have been some of the main things for you?
Well, I think for me, a big part of it was I did have to grieve. I went through a pretty intense grieving period, because there was a lot of expectations that I had and feelings around what I wanted our relationship to be, and there was a way that I feel like I was definitely putting the cart before the horse, and having wanting to control it, and not feeling like Bob's leaving me, and so it was kind of painful to have that realization, and also have to go through the feelings associated with that, around realizing how much of it was like me wanting to make it something that it wasn't, because it was lovely and fun and easy and magical, and there was a way that I wanted more, because I admit, like, there's this longing that I have, and instead of just allowing myself to trust in what wants to happen and just let it evolve the way it wants to, I think I did put a lot of pressure onto it and onto you. And so just let myself grieve, let myself feel, let myself just get back to myself and solid in myself, and focus on what's important to me, both in like a purpose way, like my life and my purpose, and also in a like just relational way.
Yeah, and I think for me, some of the biggest things have just been continuing to do my personal work. For me, what it felt like when we were separating initially was I had a lot of thoughts of like, how could I ever find something this good again?
I mean, Bob.
Yeah, really.
I know.
I had those thoughts a lot, and they're also after we separated, I also had this awareness of how One of the difficult things for Natalie during our relationship was that although so many parts of the relationship worked super well, there was this kind of core level for me where I wasn't grounded, where she wasn't able to feel me grounded in the relationship. There was always a part of me that kind of wanted to be free and wanted to be able to kind of like go like date other people and stuff like this. And I kind of got it during the relationship, but I only really got it afterward. There was this moment where I just got it, and I was like, oh my God, like I saw
you
that.
You got what I was craving?
Yeah,
or
well, I got I got the place where I wasn't solid. There was this moment where I literally felt and like got this look at myself that I hadn't been able to get otherwise, where I was like, oh my God, there is this part of me that just hasn't been here, that hasn't been grounded in this relationship, that she hasn't been able to lean into. And so there was this moment where I really I really felt that and really saw that place and saw that part. And it took the distance for me to be able to like come to see that part. And I also realized that I became, and I know that we did, but certainly I became really enmeshed energetically and emotionally. And
I was just going to say that you literally took the words out of my head. I was going to say, there's also a way that, based on our past and the way we've done relationship, we both individually have a tendency to have this kind of like codependent thing happen where even though we both want freedom, because I want freedom just as much as you in a lot of ways, like I'm a freaking gypsy, like I want to travel half the time, and I want to be with a partner that's okay with that. But at the same time, I'm like, I need to know that you're with me and
that you're not going to abandon me.
Right, and it just like creates this like don't leave kind of pull, and then Bob has his own version of that. Yeah,
where there's like a part of me wants to go away when things get too close, but then there's this other part of me that's like, no, don't go away.
Like I don't want to be lonely and sad place to be. Yeah. So
we got really enmeshed emotionally and energetically, and really starting to get again with space and with distance, really starting to see those places, those deep unmet needs, where kind of like our childhood stuff is playing itself out in relationship, because that's what happens in relationship. Just like taking a step back and doing our inner work on healing those parts, and also just letting that energy settle down so that when we get together we don't feel this like strong desire to just kind of like pop back into the way that things were. It took a little bit of time for us to get regrounded in ourselves individually.
And it did. It took time while we were apart to like really be apart, not to talk as much and just kind of feel into what do we each individually need right now. There were times where I was like, I think I need like a couple of weeks of just not talking personally and just doing business stuff or whatever it was, so that we can get solid and grounded and centered.
Yeah.
And it's been, again, 6 months since that time, and it's been a dance. It's been easier at times and harder at times, but just within the last, month?
Yeah, the last month. We just had a breakthrough conversation.
Right.
And the thing that has, like, I guess, remained clear is that there still is a really deep connection between her and I. Like, we read each other's minds. We're very connected. There's still such a strong connection here. And so I have continued to show up to the relationship, and there was this moment about a month ago where, Natalie, you'd been hurting pretty bad for a few months there, right?
I was really, really in it, because that, like, Bob leaving, or what to me was, Bob not wanting to be in relationship, like I translated as he didn't want me and I wasn't enough, and he's leaving, and it totally brought up all this grief around my dad. And so like there were times where I couldn't tell who I was grieving for. Was I grieving for the end of our relationship, or was I grieving my dad leaving me when I was 9? And it was just so painful. It was really painful.
Yeah. And there would be these moments where I could feel it coming out at me, where she would kind of do like little kind of like jabbing, biting kind of comments that are relatively subtle, but I'm so attuned to it, and there were things that never happened otherwise before, and I was grounded enough that I didn't take it personally for the most part. And there came this moment about a month ago where we were talking on the phone, and I just reflected back to her like, hey, this happened on the call, on this call the other day. Like I think it was with a client, or maybe on an interview that we were doing. And like you said, these couple things, and at first she was defensive, and she said, well, what, I'm not allowed to like have a hard time, or
I can't be snarky and sarcastic, and I have to be like perfect and
like all the time,
lovely all the time, and yeah, it totally set me off.
and there was a lot of defense there, and I was like, well, no, actually, like you are allowed to, except for the thing is that like I could feel that I could feel that she was just hurting underneath, and I didn't lose sight of that ever, and I just stayed with her, and we ended up having a 4-hour conversation that just totally broke through all of the hurt that she'd been carrying around, and there's a lot of defense around it. And since then it really genuinely feels and looks like we're at this place now where it's like we're at where we're at. I don't feel like there's going to be any more huge ups and downs and bumps. Not in the foreseeable future. It feels like we kind of like broke through, and we're just at this really smooth place that I think is gonna. It does really seem like it's going to continue being this way.
Agreed.
For a while. Yeah. There'll be something again at some point.
I was going to say until the next thing comes up.
Yeah, but that whole I think what I'm trying to say is that whole like the reverberations of our romantic separation feels like we finally have like really come to completion around that.
Yeah. Because the big thing for me was you left me, and there was this moment where Bob just literally said, "I'm still here." And regardless of what the form of the relationship is, whether we're romantic, and even if it was just friends. He's like, I'm still here, Natalie. Like I've been here this whole time. And it just like, it was this moment of, oh, fuck. Like, it's true. He has been here. And he's still here. And he's still willing to like be with me wherever I'm at. And it did. It was powerful. Yeah.
So that is a little bit about what it's been like over the past 6 months. And what's next for us? So what's next for us as a pair of people, a couple.
That's good.
As a couple of people.
That's good. Because y'all, no promises. Shit might change in a month.
We'll see what happens.
Either way, anything is possible.
So we're letting it evolve. We're letting it take the form that it wants to.
Yeah.
So I talked about a little bit of it. So Sex the Podcast, we're going to keep doing through the end of the year, and then we're going to put that baby to bed. And as far as we can tell, we're going to keep coaching together. We haven't ever talked about not doing it, and it's felt really good. And
again, it's like following flow. What feels good, where's our energy? There's still a lot of energy around the coaching.
Yes.
People are coming to
still
us,
getting
and we're
new
getting
clients
new
referred,
clients,
and and still really fun, like as intuitive as ever. We've been doing a lot of interviews, like getting interviewed a lot lately. We've
and
probably been on like gotten
and
interviewed about 10 different times over the past few months. So that's continuing for the foreseeable future. And then individually, one of the blessings for me of our separation was that I really had the chance to individuate. Like I discovered so much about myself and about my purpose and my passion and my calling while we were together. And still it was like in this kind of enmeshed place and enmeshed in this vision that we had created together. And so what's happened since then for me is I've really individuated, and I have dropped into this much deeper level of calling and connection to my purpose around supporting men. So here in Los Angeles, I started an organization called Men's Work Los Angeles, and I did my first workshop the other day and filled up the room with guys, and going to be continuing to build that here in LA and then the country and worldwide, and just really connecting with this vision to be a leader in this space of supporting and healing men. And another aspect of that is bringing men together across spaces of sexuality. So I've been creating these virtual calls where I've been bringing gay men and straight men together to just connect as men, to explore masculinity, to explore different parts of their experiences, and to get to connect in deeper ways that very rarely happens. It's like in all of my experience with all the people that I know, like this depth of connection happening between like gay men and straight men and men of different sexualities doesn't happen very often, and that's been really like appearing for me as a very important calling of mine. So I've been putting on these virtual calls, and I'm going to be creating a group program that's going to be kind of like again, like bringing different men, bringing men of different sexual orientation in together, and just creating brotherhood across that gap of sexuality that's such a painful thing for all men. It hits all men really hard, so that's really emerging as a super important part of my work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just got back from a retreat where I was writing my book, finally. Tried a few years ago to write a memoir, just kind of like my story. There's a lot that I've kind of endured, and the fact that I'm still here and turned on and happy and purpose filled is a miracle. And so writing that story, and just got booked a ticket to France. I'm going to be doing my first international talk in Paris in November, and really just kind of opening up to this. And it was actually with Bob that one of the times we were coaching, he said, I slow people down and you, Natalie, turn people on. And it was like, oh my God, I really do. And so it's just kind of this realizing that's my superpower. I help people turn on and have a turned on life, and just realizing like that's my kind of focus and mission and platform. And so that's really been able to, as Bob said, since we've had the space, get really clear. And this weekend I just saw it all as I was writing. And so it's just this really beautiful way that really living into our personal missions and purpose, and then still allowing space for us to do our work together, and supporting each other in each other's personal missions. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah, it really is the best of both. I've had this thought a number of times over the past few weeks or so of people say that you need to be grounded as an individual in the relationship, and then you kind of bring that to a relationship. But it can be so easy to lose ourselves in relationship, and we have just come to this really beautiful place of being super grounded as individuals and coming together and co-creating in a really extraordinary way still. So it's been really, really special. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of just beautiful things coming in the works for, again, us as individual people and together, and then again, just permission. We reserve the right to just do whatever feels good in any moment, and that might change. And I think that's one of my biggest learnings this whole experience is I personally, and I feel like a lot of people, get very attached to the way that it's supposed to look, and then what happens is you just grip and white knuckle. And this whole surrendering thing has been a lesson, and a really important one, of what wants to happen for your highest good, and allowing that to be the thing that leads. So there you have it. We love you all. Thank you so much for watching. It's been such a blessing to just the reflections and the support that we've gotten even through our process of separating romantically, and since then, of like still people that we talk to say you inspire us, like the model, like the the way that you model relationship is inspiring, even after we separated romantically, and it has just been really special to notice and feel that all the love that Natalie and I have, and that we've really done the work to cultivate and maintain and deepen, that other people see it too. So super grateful for all of you who have supported us and loved us and seen us, really seen the love that's present in our process. It's meant a lot. Yeah, we love you all.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye.